My dad texted me at 2 a.m. Grab your sister and run. Don't trust your mother. So I did. Most nights at 2 a.m. our house was silent. The kind of silence where every creak of the floorboards sounded too loud, where the hum of the refrigerator seemed to echo. But that night my phone buzzed violently on my nightstand, dragging me out of a half-dream. It was unusual. Nobody ever texted me that late. I groggily reached over, expecting some dumb notification or maybe a message from one of my friends who stayed up too late playing games. But my breath froze when I saw the sender. That we hadn't been close this past year. Mom said he was working through things. Dad said Mom was changing. Neither ever explained much. They fought quietly, secretly, with closed doors and whispers that they thought I couldn't hear. But that message wasn't a whisper. It was a punch. Grab your sister and run. Don't trust your mother. For 5 full seconds I just stared at the glowing screen in the darkness, waiting for the words to rearrange into something logical. Something normal. But they didn't. They stayed terrifyingly still. My first thought was, is this a joke? My second, is Dad drunk? My third, the one that made my stomach twist. What does he know that I don't? I sat up, fully awake now, every sense alert. The house felt wrong. Heavy. Like someone had draped a wet blanket over the walls. Like the air itself didn't want to move. I swung my legs out of bed and froze when I heard slow, deliberate footsteps downstairs. That wasn't normal. Not at 2 a.m. And definitely not from my mom. She always walked lightly, almost floating from room to room. These footsteps were heavier. Slower. Almost like the person walking was waiting. Suddenly Dad's message didn't seem crazy at all. My heart pounded against my ribs as I crept toward my little sister's room at the end of the hallway. Lily was only 9. Too young to understand secrets. Too innocent to know our parents hid anything. Her room was glowing faintly with her nightlight. A tiny unicorn lamp that she insisted protected her from monsters. If only she knew the real monsters didn't hide under her bed. I gently pushed her door open. Lily, I whispered. She didn't move. Lily slept like a rock, completely still, breathing softly, her hair spread like a halo across her pillow. I knelt beside her and touched her shoulder. Lily, wake up. Now. Her eyes fluttered open, confused. What time is it? We have to go, I whispered urgently. Quietly. She frowned. But why? I clapped my hand over her mouth before she could finish. Her eyes widened with fear when she saw how serious I looked. I leaned close to her ear. Someone's in the house. She nodded slowly and I pulled my hand away. She slipped out of bed and reached for my hand instinctively. I grabbed her small backpack from her chair and shoved in her favorite stuffed rabbit without thinking. We tiptoed into the hallway, every board under our feet sounding like a gunshot in my head. We reached the top of the stairs. And froze. Mom was downstairs. Standing in the living room. But she wasn't alone. A man with a dark jacket stood beside her, tall and broad-shouldered, with his hands shoved into his pockets. They were whispering urgently. Mom's voice was trembling, not scared, guilty. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw her face. She kept looking toward the stairs. She wasn't checking on us. She was waiting. Waiting for us. Lily's grip on my hand tightened. Suddenly, Dad's message made horrifying sense. I backed us away slowly, praying the stairs wouldn't creak. When we reached the bathroom, I shut the door quietly and locked it. Lily looked up at me with panic. Who was that man? She whispered. I don't know, I lied. But we're leaving now. The bathroom window was small but not too small. I unlatched it and pushed it open. Cold night air rushed in, smelling of damp grass. I climbed out first, dropping into the backyard. Lily followed and I caught her so she wouldn't fall. I grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the fence. We climbed over and ran across our neighbor's yard until my lungs hurt and my legs burned. I didn't stop until we were on the next street, hiding behind a row of trash bins. My hands trembled as I dialed Dad's number. He answered instantly. Tell me you're out of the house. Yeah, I whispered. What's going on? Who was that man? What did Mom? Dad cut me off. His voice cracked. She made a deal with the wrong people. And now they want Lily. Why? Why her? Dad hesitated. Because she's not supposed to be with your mom. What does that mean? I demanded. I'll explain everything. But you need to listen. Go to the old cabin. The one I took you two camping at. There's a folder hidden inside with everything you need to know. I'm driving there now. The call ended. Lily clung to me like she might disappear if she let go. Are we going to be okay? She whispered. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure anymore. The woods behind our neighborhood were dense and dark at night. As we slipped between the trees, the world went silent except for our crunching footsteps. Shadows twisted across the ground. Moonlight flickered through branches like a broken flashlight. Lily kept glancing behind us. Do you think Mom's looking for us? I swallowed hard. She might be. But she won't find us. I hoped that was true. The one thing keeping me going was the memory of that cabin. Dad built it with his own hands back when he still smiled easily. Before the arguments, before the separation, before the secrets. It was our safe place. Our quiet place. The last place on earth Mom would think to look. Or so I hoped. The walk felt endless. Every snap of a twig made us jump. Every rustle sounded like footsteps. The deeper we went, the colder the air became. Lily shivered, hugging her backpack. Why does someone want me? She asked quietly. Her voice broke me. I don't know, I said softly. But I'm going to keep you safe. I promise. She nodded, trusting me completely, more than I trusted myself. Finally, after what felt like hours, the cabin appeared through the trees. A dark shape against the moonlit clearing. The front door hung open. My heart stopped. Someone was already inside. Lily held my hand so tightly it hurt as we approached the door. I peeked inside. A small lantern flickered on the table. Definitely not something Dad would leave on. But the cabin was empty. For now. We went inside and I spotted the folder immediately. Thick. Stuffed with documents. My name was on it. Lily's name too. I opened it slowly. The first page was a photograph of Lily as a baby. Mom wasn't in the picture. Dad was holding her, but the woman beside him was someone I had never seen. She looked tired but smiling, her hand wrapped protectively around Lily's tiny fist. I flipped to the next document. A birth certificate. Not the one we'd seen hanging in the hallway our whole childhood. This one listed a different mother's name. Lily's real mother. And the signature at the bottom? Not my mom's. I kept reading, heart pounding faster with every page. Legal papers. A custody agreement. A restraining order. A termination request that had never been filed. Then a letter in Dad's handwriting. If you're reading this, they found out. Protect Lily at all costs. Lily's voice trembled. What does it mean? I opened my mouth to answer. But headlights flashed through the trees. The car. Fast. Stopping right outside the cabin. A door slammed. Then another. Lily whispered, "Is that Dad?" Footsteps approached the cabin. Slow. Deliberate. Not Dad. My blood went cold. Someone else had found the folder too. And they wanted Lily. I grabbed Lily's wrist and pulled her behind the cabin table, heart slamming against my ribs. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. I could hear someone breathing. Then the door creaked open. A silhouette filled the doorway. A man's shape. Broad shoulders. The same build as the stranger in our living room. He stepped inside, his boots thudding against the wooden floor. He wasn't rushing. He was searching. Slowly, methodically. Like he wasn't worried about us escaping. Like he knew we had nowhere to go. Lily's breath hitched. I covered her mouth gently, feeling her trembling against me. The man walked past the table, scanning the room, and for a moment I thought we were done. But then, a car engine roared outside. Another vehicle. A familiar voice shouted, "Get away from my kids." That, for the first time all night, I felt hope. The stranger spun around just as Dad burst through the door. Dad tackled him hard, slamming him into the wall. The lantern fell and rolled across the floor, shadows dancing wildly around the room. "Run!" Dad shouted. I grabbed Lily and bolted out the back door, sprinting through the trees. Branches slashed at my arms, roots snagged my feet, but I didn't stop. Lily was crying, but she kept up beside me. Behind us, I heard shouts. A struggle. Then a gunshot. I froze. Lily screamed. A second later, Dad stumbled out of the cabin, clutching his arm. "Keep running," he yelled. "Don't stop." We obeyed. As we had to. Because the night wasn't done with us yet. We didn't stop until we reached a clearing lit by the moon. Dad collapsed against a tree, breathing heavily. Blood soaked through his sleeve, but he waved me off when I tried to help him. "There's something you need to know," he said, voice hoarse. "She's not your sister." Lily gasped. "What?" Dad shook his head quickly. "No, I mean you're not siblings by blood. But you are family. Because I raised you both. And I'll die before I let anyone take her." He sighed shakily. "Lily's mother, the woman in the picture, was someone your mom hated. Someone she wanted gone. Years ago your mom made a deal with a private group, people who deal with custody disputes and family arrangements. They promised her full custody, for a price. When Lily's mother died unexpectedly, they didn't let go. They wanted what mom owed them. And when she couldn't pay anymore..." His eyes filled with guilt. "They came for Lily." I felt sick. "So mom knew?" I whispered. Dad nodded. "She knew. And she agreed to let them take Lily." Lily sobbed, clinging to Dad. "Why would she do that?" Dad pulled her close. "Because sometimes grown-ups lose their way. But I won't let them hurt you. Either of you." Then footsteps echoed behind us again. The stranger. Still hunting. Dad grabbed my arm. "Take Lily and go. Follow the river. Don't stop until you reach the bridge. There'll be people there, good people." "What about you?" I asked, voice cracking. He forced a smile. "I'm buying you time." "No, Dad." But he pushed me hard. "Go." I grabbed Lily and ran. Tears blurred my vision. The river roared beside us, moonlight glinting off the black water. The stranger shouted behind us, his voice growing closer. But we kept running. For our lives. For our family. For the truth we never wanted. When we reached the bridge, headlights flashed across us. 2 figures stepped out of a parked SUV. "Your dad sent us," one said. "Get in." We climbed into the back seat and the SUV sped off. Lily sobbed into my chest. I stared out the rear window, praying to see Dad emerging from the trees. But he didn't. Not that night. Maybe not ever. And as we drove into the darkness, one thing became painfully clear. Dad's message wasn't a warning. It was a lifeline. And everything we thought we knew about our family was only the beginning of the story. The SUV sped through the darkness like a bullet, the headlights carving tunnels through the trees. Every bump in the road jostled Lily, who clung to me with a grip I didn't know her tiny hands had. The driver, scarred jaw, cold eyes, military posture, didn't speak. The woman in the passenger seat kept looking back at us every few seconds, as if checking whether we were still alive. Or maybe making sure we hadn't noticed how terrified she was too. Lily's voice trembled. "Where's Dad?" I swallowed hard, trying to keep steady for her sake. "He's coming." It was a lie. A lie I prayed would become true if I said it enough times. The woman finally spoke. "Your father told us someone was after your sister. He said if he didn't arrive within 10 minutes, we were to leave without him." My heart stopped. "He told you that?" She nodded. "He said protecting Lily, or any child, was worth his life." That knife of reality slid deeper into my chest. Lily squeezed my arm. "He's okay, right?" I couldn't answer. The driver did instead. "He's a fighter," he muttered. "If anyone can walk out of those woods alive, it's him." But the tone of his voice, flat, grim, told me he didn't believe it. The SUV slowed as we pulled onto a winding road. Far behind us, the woods disappeared into darkness, swallowing the cabin, the stranger, and my father with it. I stared into that blackness until the trees vanished from view. Dad wasn't walking out of those woods. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. The SUV stopped in front of an old, weathered farmhouse at the edge of an empty field. The windows were boarded, the paint peeling, but the porch light glowed a faint yellow, as if someone had left it on for us hours before we even knew we'd need it. "This way," the woman said, stepping out. The night air was colder here, sharper somehow. Lily clung to me as we walked inside. The house smelled like dust, wood, and something metallic. A radio crackled softly in the corner. Maps were spread across a table. A kettle steamed on a stove. The woman motioned for us to sit. "I'm Kara. That's Mason. We worked with your father a long time ago." "Worked?" I repeated, confused. "He's an electrician." Mason let out a short, humorless laugh. "Kid, your father hasn't fixed a wire in 20 years. I blinked. "What?" Kara gave Mason a sharp look, then turned to us with softer eyes. Your dad wasn't who you thought he was. Before he met your mother, he ran extraction operations. High level. Off-grid. People whose lives were in danger, people who needed to disappear. He saved families. Children. People like. She glanced at Lily. My stomach twisted. People like her? Kara nodded. Your sister wasn't just a custody dispute. Her biological mother was a whistleblower. They were going to take Lily as leverage. Your dad stepped in. He broke protocol to protect her. And that made enemies. Lily's lip trembled. So I'm wanted? Kara shook her head firmly. Not you. The idea of you. What do you represent? Evidence. A loose end. My blood ran cold. But I don't understand, I said. Why, Mom? Why did she get involved? Kara hesitated. Because she wanted a life your father couldn't give her. Security. Money. Stability. And those people promised her that, if she gave them Lily. Lily gasped quietly and tucked her face into my side. Kara knelt to her level. Nothing about you is wrong. Nothing about you is bad. You were just born into someone else's fight, okay? Lily nodded shakily. I forced myself to ask the question that hurt the most. Where's Dad now? Kara hesitated too long. Mason answered instead. If he's alive, he'll find us. And if he wasn't, no one had the courage to say it. Hours passed. The farmhouse creaked. The kettle whistled. Lily finally fell asleep curled against me, her stuffed rabbit crushed to her chest. I couldn't close my eyes. My mind replayed the gunshot at the cabin again and again. Mason sat by the window with a rifle propped beside him. Kara sifted through the folder Dad had left, her eyes narrowing at every page. Even with all their experience, I could tell something bothered them. Finally, she looked up. There's something missing. What do you mean? I asked. She slid a document across the table. Lily's real mother's testimony. Important, damning, dangerous. This was supposed to be turned over to a federal contact. It never was. Dad kept it. I whispered. Kara nodded. And the people chasing her want one thing. To make sure this testimony never sees daylight. I stared at Lily sleeping innocently, unaware she was the center of a war. So what do we do? I asked. Before Kara could answer. A soft knock rattled the door. 3 slow taps. Followed by 1 quick tap. Mason shot to his feet and aimed his rifle. Kara's face went pale. That's not a stranger, she whispered. That's one of ours. He crept to the peephole. Her breath caught. She threw open the door. And Dad collapsed inside. He looked like he had crawled through hell, bloodied, exhausted, shaking. His face was pale, lips cracked, shirt torn. But he was alive. Alive. Dad. I rushed to him, helping Kara pull him inside. Lily jolted awake. When she saw him, she sprinted across the room and threw her arms around his neck. He winced in pain but hugged her back with both arms. Hey, Bug. I told you I'd catch up. I helped him sit. Mason got a med kit. Kara poured water. Dad drank like he hadn't tasted it in years. Are they still after us? I asked. Dad nodded slowly. They won't stop. But I bought us time. How? Mason asked sharply. Dad reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a USB drive. Because I got the real file. The one Lily's mom died trying to expose. They think they destroyed it. They're wrong. Kara's eyes widened. You got it out? Dad nodded. They came for the wrong kid. He looked at Lily. At least, that's what they thought. My stomach twisted. What do you mean? Dad took Lily's hand and squeezed it gently. Because you're not just a witness. You're proof. Your mother was pregnant when she was taken. They didn't know. He hid you. Passed you to me before she died. Lily's eyes filled with tears. So, my real mom wanted me safe. Dad kissed her forehead. She died making sure of it. Kara stood abruptly. We need to leave now. With that drive we can end this. Get Lily official protection. But the people after her, they'll burn the world down to stop us. Mason grabbed the rifle. We move at dawn. But dawn came too early. And not alone. The sky was just turning blue when Mason froze at the window. Cars, he whispered. 3 of them. Dad's face went grim. They found us. Kara yanked open a floor hatch. Go. Back tunnel. We scrambled down into a narrow underground passage lit by old bulbs. The air smelled of dirt and metal. Mason sealed the hatch behind us, staying upstairs to hold them off. "Where is he going?" Lily cried. Dad didn't answer. Not fast enough. Gunshots exploded above us. Care pushed us forward. "Keep moving. Go." The tunnel opened into a small clearing behind a barn. A black SUV waited there, engine running, doors open. Dad grabbed Lily. "We're almost there, Bug. Hold on." Just as we climbed in, a gunshot cracked the air. Kara jerked backwards and fell to the ground. Dad shouted her name, but she didn't move. 3 men emerged from the trees. The same ones from the cabin. The leader stepped forward, gun raised. "Hand over the girl." Dad put Lily behind him. "You're going to have to kill me." "We were planning on it." He aimed. "I didn't think." I threw myself at him. We crashed to the ground. His gun skidded across the dirt. Dad tackled another man. Lily screamed. The third reached for her. I kicked him in the knee hard enough that something cracked. He fell. Dad punched the second man into the dirt. I scrambled for the gun. My hands shook uncontrollably. The leader lunged toward Lily. Dad dove between them. A shot rang out. Dad collapsed. "Dad!" I screamed. The leader pointed his gun at me next. But before he could fire, a blast echoed through the field. He jerked forward, then fell. Behind him stood Mason. Bleeding. Bruised. Alive. Dad coughed, clutching his side. "It's okay. It's okay." Lily sobbed uncontrollably as she held on to him. Kara stumbled out from behind the barn, alive, but weak, Mason supporting her. Sirens wailed in the distance. Dad smiled faintly. "We made it. They're coming. Real help." And for the first time that night, I believed him. 2 weeks later we sat in a federal safe house. Clean, warm, quiet. Lily was in witness protection. New identity, new home, new life ahead. The government had the files. The group chasing her was being dismantled piece by piece. Mom was arrested. Dad survived. Barely. He walked with a limp now, his ribs still healing. But he smiled again. Not often. But enough. Lily sat at the kitchen table coloring. She looked peaceful. Safe. Something she hadn't been in years. Something she almost lost forever. Dad sat beside me on the porch that evening. "You saved her life," he said quietly. "So did you." He shook his head. "No. You were the one who ran. The one who kept her moving. You became the person I hoped I raised you to be." I didn't know what to say to that. "Do you think she'll ever know everything?" I asked. Dad exhaled. "One day. When she's old enough. When she's strong enough to hear it." "And Mom?" I asked softly. His jaw tightened. "Some people lose themselves so quietly, you don't notice until they're gone." We sat in silence for a long time, watching the sun set across a world that suddenly felt safer. Finally, Dad spoke again. "Everything changed the moment I sent that message," he murmured. "But if I hadn't, I might have lost both of you." I nodded. "I'm glad you sent it." Dad smiled faintly. "Me too." Inside the house, Lily called out, "Dinner." Dad stood slowly. "Come on. Before she burns something." I laughed. For the first time in weeks, it was genuine. As we walked back inside, I glanced at my phone. Dad's old message still sat there. "Grab your sister and run. Don't trust your mother." I didn't delete it. Because that night didn't just save Lily. It saved all of us. And it reminded me that sometimes, the people who look strongest aren't the ones who save the day. Sometimes it's the scared kid running through the woods, holding someone else's hand.